I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast. Hey, Book Bound Besties. Welcome to episode 6 of season 3 of the Book Bound Besties podcast, where we dive deep into your favorite books, have unhinged chats, and Elyse theorizes about what's to come because she has not read the whole book yet. Today, we're talking about From Blood and Ash, chapters 21 through 24. As always, if you want more Book Bound Besties content, be sure to follow along on TikTok and Instagram, where we post silly videos, funny clips from our episodes, and our unhinged book reviews. And also, to close the loop on this housekeeping segment, please remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts specifically. By doing so, it'll help us push through the algorithm and bring more besties into the mix. And as we've been saying for a while, there are no other From Blood and Ash deep dive podcasts. So
Get the word out there.
get the word out there. Finally, this is your content warning. This was another pretty, actually, no, there was a passage from a certain Miss Willa's diary that is not suitable for little ears.
True.
So do it that way you will.
How have you been?
I've been good. We've had a busy family weekend. My mom goes back to Egypt on Saturday, so we've been trying to spend a lot of time with her. And we announced the baby news to more of our family, which was very exciting.
For sure.
Yeah. And yeah, kind of, I mean, that kind of takes up a lot of our time these days. Is our days are dictated by how I feel and how I sleep, which, spoiler alert for anybody who has not gotten pregnant before, you sleep terribly. Like yesterday, after dinner, Justin and I put on Disney Plus to watch something.
Did you watch Princess Diaries?
And he sees that I had Princess Diaries too, like in the continue watching. He's like, oh wow, you really couldn't sleep last night. I'm like, I know. I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I could not for the life of me get back to sleep. So I watched Princess Diaries too. Classic. The OG enemies to lovers. Honestly, yeah. How about you?
Good. I mean, we're dealing with the house. We're chipping away at what we can. We found out we have asbestos, so we have to get professionals to come in and remove it, and which is not fun. So we'll be moving out of our house for a few days. But it's moving forward. Just keep thinking of how nice the basement's going to be. I'm not going to have ugly stucco ceilings anymore and walls anymore.
All good things.
Yeah.
You have to reframe shitty situations.
Yeah.
Have you made any progress on any of your reading?
No? Because to be honest...
But like, I feel like Demolition is a perfect opportunity to listen to an audiobook.
Yeah, but there's like loud fans and we have to talk, like we're trying to, like this weekend, for instance, we moved our fridge and our chest freezer and our washer and dryer. So it was just like Scott and I like heaving these giant appliances, and it's not really ideal time to listen to.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But we'll definitely get to that point. But right now it's like, yeah, we're working really hard, and then I'm fried by the end of the day, and like you hit the bed and you're just like,
no, totally
done. So
well, we are going to Boston in a couple weeks. It's so soon. I'm so excited. And actually, it's really funny. I didn't tell you this, but when we RSVP'd, so besties, you may have remembered from season 1, Elyse and I would talk about our friend Riddick. Mm-hmm. So we're going to Boston for his wedding, and we had to RSVP by mail, which, I mean, a lot of people just have a wedding website that you can RSVP on, but it was kind of cute that like we had to RSVP by mail. It was very traditional. And so I was filling out the RSVP. Justin's going to take it to the post office. And I was like, oh, how funny would it be if I RSVP'd 2.5 guests? I'm like, do you think they'll get it? And he's like, yeah, do it. I think it'll be funny. And then Riddick called us Friday night to be like, you sons of guns.
That's really cute.
And Steph thought it was a very good soft launch, and I was very proud of myself for that.
Very clever. I like it.
Yeah. So all this to say, we're going to be going to Boston, so it's going to be a lot of car time. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Scott will let you put on audiobook on?
Oh, no. We're going to talk and stuff, or listen to music or whatever.
You're going to talk for 4 hours?
I'm not going to just hide and...
No, you both listen to it.
the last time an audiobook came on in the car, I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast, actually. I was listening to Leather and Lark.
Oh,
and
yes.
My phone.
Was it the epilogue?
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah. My phone attached to the car. And if anyone's read the epilogue of Leather and Lark,
it is definitely not for little ears.
It is not. I just started laughing and I was like, oh, you're about to hear a scene. He's like, what? And then I let it play for a few seconds and he was just like, oh. It was great. Anyway.
That's so funny. Well, Justin is actually becoming slowly more open to my type of book.
Okay.
So I have to see which audiobook he will listen to on the car ride. Because I did have him listen. He did listen to the ACOTAR graphic audio. But for him, the graphic audio, I think, was a bit too much. Because he was driving and then trying to follow the story, and then you've got the sound effects, you've got all that kind of
intense.
stuff. Yeah.
Especially ACOTAR. It's
yeah,
intense.
exactly. A normal audiobook is usually read at a slower pace, and it's just easier to follow. The downside is sometimes if you're really enjoying the narrator's voice, you can get lulled into sleep.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, we've never listened to an audiobook together in the car. I mean, we're also big music people, right? So we'll listen to music and chat and whatever.
Yeah. So. Justin is a huge music person. I like my kind of music. He likes every kind of music. And lately he's been really into EDM, and I'm like, no. Oh, we cannot do this.
Yeah, I can't do EDM.
It's when it's just a song repeating the same sentence or the same 3 words. It just makes me irate. I literally lose my mind. I'm I cannot listen to this a moment longer.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's not for me either. That's not my. I mean, we listen to a lot of different stuff, but that is not one of them.
It's because you know what? It's the type of music he listens to when he's working because it gets him into a groove, which I totally understand, but we don't need to listen to it when we're driving.
Right.
That's
Yeah. That's Mimi's going to pull her hair out.
Yeah. So usually I bully him into listening to the Tortured Poets Department.
That's great. That's great.
Which, you know what? I have to say, my wonderful husband, who I talk up all the time on this podcast, he likes Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching the Long Pond sessions a few weeks ago because I was just in the mood.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, she is so good. I'm I know.
Yeah, Scott will enjoy her for sure. He watched the concert with me and in terms of Tortured Poets, I guess we haven't done a long road trip in a while, so we haven't put it on the whole thing for him. But there was a time that we were going up to his brother's cottage quite a bit, and coming home, we almost always listen to Folklore Evermore.
Nice.
Almost every time.
Yeah.
So,
well, for us, the drive to his parents' house is long enough that you can listen to a big chunk of that album.
It's true. It's true.
Anyway, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
I did not really have any world building.
Me neither.
Okay. Great.
It was a lot of conversations. And
it was. We're building towards something. And I told you 2 weeks ago that this week was the week something was going to happen, but I made a mistake. It's next week.
Okay.
And I feel like the last sentence of the last chapter of this week's chunk of chapters may indicate something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not even it.
Right.
Shit is about to hit the fan.
Oh, I'm here for it.
Because we're now past halfway through the book, so.
Ready to shake things up a little.
Oh, yeah.
So chapter 21, Poppy goes off on a nighttime adventure, this time to secure a scandalous Rite. As she's wrapped up in the pages of Miss Willa's journal, the Duke approaches, sending Poppy hiding on a window ledge. Once the coast is seemingly clear, Hawk arrives, catching Poppy. Pretty great.
I love their interactions when it's just them two. I love how bantery they are and confrontational they are, and how he loves to just get under her skin.
Yeah.
I just love him.
I enjoyed him very much in these chapters.
Oh, I'm glad. Our reckless queen, Poppy, has gotten bored sitting alone in her room after having reread the books that Tawny brought her several times over, and decides to visit the Athenaeum, which is basically a fancy way to say library.
Mm-hmm. I'd never heard that word before.
Me neither.
Oh, okay.
I actually thought it was fake. I thought it was a made-up word, so I Googled it. And it just means it's an institution for libraries, sciences, that kind of thing. It's just an institution of learning.
Yeah, that's great. I just didn't know it was like a word, but I guess it's not a common word, so.
Yeah, why would you say an Athenaeum when you can just say a library?
There you go.
Anyway, she's here to get her hands on Miss Willa Collins' diary, which was the book that Lauren and Defina were talking about during that scene in the atrium a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. She gets so engrossed in her book, which I can totally relate to, that happens to me all the time, that she doesn't realize that the room she was reading in must have been the Duke's private room within the Athenaeum. So when she hears voices outside the door, she bails to the only place she can, which is out the window.
Scary.
She overhears the Duke conducting a meeting with who she assumes to be a guard, and they're discussing the blonde man they apprehended after his outburst at the Duke's speech the other day. So this man has been questioned, but hasn't really shared anything worth noting. All we know is that he's not an Atlantean. His name is Lev Baron. He's a first son. He's well connected with the dissenters of the city, but has never met the Dark One. And the only useful info that he shared is that he got the hand from the Craven hand from a body of a cursed guard who made it back into the Rise, but that had been killed by the White Handkerchief Network. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. We now know that the Duke and his people know about the network, right, but have, for whatever reason, chosen not to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. The conversation ends with the Duke informing the guard that he will visit the dissenter and essentially that he will kill the dissenter himself. Soon after that, the door closes and Poppy thinks that she's alone, so she's like, okay, I can get off this ledge. But then there's another sound, and it's of the door locking, but she thinks to herself that the door can only be locked from the inside, so could it be that the Duke is still there, waiting to trap her? What did you think at this point?
I don't know. I don't think I paused enough to really think about it before the reveal. So.
Okay. Surprise, surprise. It is Hawk.
Yeah.
He sternly orders her to get back inside, which she does, and she acknowledges that he's upset, but that she can explain. But as she lands back into the room, he grabs her and holds her very closely, which is super distracting to her, obviously. And again, she remembers, just as she did at the Red Pearl, that she is physically capable of breaking his hold on her, but for whatever reason, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, she's letting him hold her. Mm-hmm. His fingers graze her face, and she thinks he's about to kiss her, and that's where the chapter ends.
Pretty intense.
I just love them. You know, one of the things that I love about these books, and we've talked about it when we did Fourth Wing, is these first little seedlings of a relationship and the little flirting and butterflies. You know, like she mentions it a few times over the next few chapters that we're going to cover today, how when she sees him, you know, her stomach dips, or, you know, like it's all of these like beautiful romantic moments that happen when you first fall in love with someone or are starting to like someone, and both of us being in very long-term relationships. I mean, listen, Justin still sometimes gives me butterflies. Like he'll do something or he'll say something and I'll be like, oh, that's so sweet. But, you know, for the most part, I'm pretty used to him. It's a different kind of love. And there's a different kind of beauty when you've been with somebody for so long. But it's kind of nice sometimes to relive
the butterflies.
Yeah.
For sure.
Was there anything else in this chapter that kind of popped out at you?
Oh, I don't know if it's really important, but Miss Willa had a fling with the king.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I feel like that's pretty scandalous. But otherwise, it was a pretty short chapter.
Miss Willa. So, okay, JLA came out earlier this year with a book called Visions of Flesh and Fire, which I did see at Indigo last week when I went. But it's like $40. I was like, I must come back with my gift cards.
Okay.
Because there was no way I could convince Justin to.
But what is the book?
It is a compendium. It's actually, I really want to get it for us because I think it's going to be really useful. What it has is, how can I say this without it being spoilery for you? Okay, so you know how Poppy is starting to identify emotions, more emotions? It's not, I guess it's spoilery, but it's not really spoilery. She's going to start identifying like a taste to these emotions.
Yeah, she has already a little bit given them taste traits or scents or whatever.
Yeah. So it's got, for example, a glossary of all of the emotions with all of the corresponding
feelings.
Yeah, tastes.
Okay.
There's snippets of Miss Willa's diary.
Oh, okay.
There's
so just a cool companion guide.
Yeah, it's basically a guide to the both Flesh and Fire and From Blood and Ash series, where it'll have the history and background of each character, of the different creatures, of the history of the world. It's a really cool.
That is cool.
Book.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love a good companion guide.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, I'll have to go back with my gift cards to Indigo because.
Sure, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But I mean, to be honest, I'm trying not to look up too much when it comes to the...
No, you have to go through me.
Exactly. So I'm afraid. But even I was telling Myriam the other day, like, I know that there's 2 series and they're interwoven. But I was like, I don't even know how many there are in each one or which books belong to which one. So I didn't even know there was a companion guide.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's all. Okay. Dimple count?
None.
Question count?
1.
1. Okay.
And it's just hi.
Yeah, it's just hi.
Hi. Words.
What is your most romantic line?
Hawk's arm tightened around me and his hold felt like it had changed, as if he were no longer keeping me in place, but holding me, embracing me. My stomach dipped as I slowly lifted my gaze to his.
Aww. Mine is, Hawk had been my first kiss, but if he kissed me now, this would be our real first kiss. He knew who I was. He'd seen me unveiled. He knew.
That's really cute.
Yeah. What's your funniest line?
If you fall, you're going to be in so much trouble. If I fall, I'll be dead. So I'm not quite sure how I'd also be in trouble.
Mine is, you still out there, princess? Or have you fallen to your death? I really hope that's not the case, since I'm pretty positive that would reflect poorly on me, since I assumed you were in your room, behaving, and not on a ledge, several dozen feet in the air, for reasons I can't even begin to fathom, but I'm dying to learn.
Love it.
He's so sarcastic.
Yeah, his banter's great. This chunk of chapters is just lovely.
Yeah.
It's a good reflection of his character.
I love him so much. Okay, what's your spiciest line?
I didn't pick a line. The whole last page is just so intense. You're just like, oof.
Okay, I did. I picked his chin dipped and my breath caught as he lowered his head. Every muscle in my body seemed to tense with a heady mix of panic and anticipation. There was intent in the way his lashes lowered and how he leaned in. He was going to kiss me. My heartbeat danced as his lips glided across my cheek, leaving a trail of fire in their wake.
Spicy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
Chapter 22. We're mere inches from a kiss, but instead end up with a scolding for being reckless. Hawk doesn't like that Poppy is putting herself at risk. He then realizes what she's been reading, and we get a scene of delicious, torturous banter. We end the chapter at the Rite, where Poppy is realizing this might be her one and only night of freedom. Picking up exactly where we left off, we're in Hawk's embrace, and Poppy is melting. And this is the moment that she's been secretly craving and also been arguing with herself over. Hawk leans in, lowers his mouth to her ear, and asks how she snuck out.
How annoyed were you in that moment?
I was like,
it was like kind of mean.
Yeah, it was mean.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for her because obviously she was like complete putty in his arms.
Absolutely.
And he knows exactly what he's doing.
Totally.
Oh, poor girl. Anyway, he was distracting her, not trying to kiss her. And I just felt bad for her.
Well, he was trying to like get under her skin or like lower her defenses so that she would be honest. He did it with I won't say it was maliciously, but he did it naughtily.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about before how I'm like, oh, I don't really get embarrassed. Like that type of stuff embarrasses me.
Oh, yeah. Like when you misread a situation. Yeah. Oh, just my
like
goodness.
Awkward interactions.
Yes.
Like that is like, mm-mm. So she knows she's lost the battle and she just tells him about the old servants' quarter. Hawk is concerned that people, specifically the Dark One, could actually get in because it works both ways. But meanwhile, Poppy's just super disappointed that he didn't kiss her. Hawk is also mad that she went gallivanting, his words, in the city. But Poppy insists that she's being safe. She's in disguise. She was on the streets for less than a minute, and she had her dagger. Like, she could take care of herself. Mm-hmm. Hawk then asks her if that's how she escaped the attack the first night, with her dagger. I feel like nothing gets by this guy. Every time he's given an little crumb of info, he like just figures it all out, you know?
Yeah, he makes lots of logical leaps.
Yeah.
And he is super into her little violent streak. That is the theme through their whole relationship.
Yeah.
He actually kind of likes that. And it reminds me of another dark and broody boy.
Yeah. Definitely. Then Hawk reveals that the reason he noticed she was gone all night at all was that he went in to check on her to see if she wanted company. And that's just like the cutest.
I know. I love that so much. And when she realizes that none of her guards have ever done that, not even Victor. Mm-hmm. Welp.
He sees her as a human, and he's seen her that way since the beginning, and it's just the cutest thing. Like,
I know.
What more can you ask for?
You know, I feel like a little bad denigrating Victor, but Victor always goes on and on about how much he cares about Poppy and how much he cares about her, not because she's a maiden, but because of who she is. And he has shown it in the sense that he's trained her and whatever, he talks to her on a different level, and he allowed, up until recently, her to join him on his missions with the White Handkerchief Network, but he hasn't really shown it the way Hawk has.
For sure. I mean, it's a very different relationship.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think Victor probably has drunk just enough of the Kool-Aid that he still believes in the roles and still believes in their place in society. And he feels, I guess, a bit helpless and doesn't know how to change it, so doesn't change it. Whereas like Hawk is just coming in, he's like, nah, fuck these guys. Like,
yeah,
like
that's
fully
true.
just
Maybe he hasn't been in the
life.
system long enough to conform.
Could be that. I mean, as far as we know, he is newer to the area, but I don't know. Do we know Victor? Did he grow up in Solus? Like,
We don't necessarily know, but we do know that he's been there since Poppy came to Macedonia. So that's been, I don't know, you want to say 10 years at least? Maybe more. No, maybe a little less than 10 years.
Yeah. So he's just been dedicated to doing his job.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then Hawk wants to know how she got onto the ledge and wants to know all the details. So Poppy explains about the Duke coming in and the discussion about the dissenter. When Poppy says the dissenter doesn't think the Dark One is in the city, Hawk says that's good news. But Poppy thinks, quote, something about his tone snagged my attention. I glance at him. You don't believe him? And that's all we get. And we don't get more info as to what she meant by his tone and why he wouldn't believe. Like, I just had so many questions. It was such a like short, like, what do you mean his tone was, what doesn't he believe? He doesn't think the Dark One's in the city. He doesn't think the dude actually doesn't know where he is. Like, I don't know. It was just a weird, like, why say that, but not actually give us any indication, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just frustrated. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean his tone? What is happening? Poppy iterates that she doesn't like the idea of the Duke killing the man in secret. And while she's distracted, Hawk takes the journal. And again, cue secondhand embarrassment because, oh my God, like my cheeks were flushing.
Were they?
Well, it's just like, I was picturing like poor Poppy, like she must have just died in that moment.
Well, especially because Hawk then proceeds to read a snippet of the journal.
For sure. And like...
in it is an act that Poppy has never heard of before.
Yeah. And we know Poppy likes this guy, and we know this guy is way more experienced. So, like, I could just imagine how, like, Poppy is feeling in that moment.
I know.
Like, oh, poor girl.
Honestly, the part that made me cringe the most is when she's like, oh, don't talk to me about love. Like, when she equates sex with love.
And he corrects her. Yeah. So Hawk is flipping through the journal with a wicked grin, and he says, quote, Penelope, this is just scandalous reading material for a maiden. Like, I could just picture it all so well. Oh, yeah. I wanted to bring up, it's actually interesting because I don't remember which video it was, but someone commented on a video. I think it was the one of you talking about just like the whole like being accused of being like porn addicts. And like we've had a lot of negative comments, unfortunately, on some of our videos. But that video addressing it had brought up a lot of great conversations in the comments. And I think it was on that video that someone commented saying that they like reading smut or like romance or whatever graphic scenes to actually kind of like get a sense of what she likes or doesn't like without having to experience it and without having to have like bad experiences with it. I thought that was just interesting.
Yeah, it's like a safe way to explore
things and then like have an idea, I guess, of what you're getting into. And it just, in reading this part, I was like, oh, it's kind of like
what Poppy's doing.
Yeah,
that's true. Great point.
And then, so yeah, Hawk is eating this up and Poppy's just dying inside. And she tries to soften the blow by saying there's nothing wrong reading about love. And oh man, girl.
It's just so beautifully naive.
But do you think she really believed that?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
I thought she was just trying to save face.
No. I think.
Oh man, that hurts even more.
I know.
That really hurts.
I know.
Anyway, Hawk doesn't bite and says, this is not about love. And then we get some great banter about his visits to the Red Pearl and Poppy being jealous. And then Hawk asks Poppy if she's ever been in love, to which she replies she hasn't, but she knows her parents loved each other deeply, which I thought also was very cute. And we don't know much about them, but just the fact that the mother gave up everything for the father, like you could see what kind of relationship they had. And Hawk, on the other hand, says he has been, though he says it was a long time ago. Then Poppy thinks, quote, he couldn't be more than a handful of years older than I was, despite the way he made it sound as if it were an eternity ago.
Yeah, but okay. In Hawk's defense, When I was in my early 20s, and I referred to my first love, like my first love, I was 15, 16. To me, that was a long time ago.
Okay.
It just felt like you grow up so much in those years that it feels like you were a totally different person, and it feels like a totally different time. That, I don't know, to me, it's not that crazy to be like, that was a really long time ago.
Yeah,
also,
maybe.
sometimes if you're trying to distance yourself from that person, like I really was trying to distance myself from that person. So I was like, that was a really long time ago. I was really different back then.
I'm a different person. Yeah. I just... Again, she's talking about his tone, and then, of course, the line popped in my head, like, how long have you been 17? I just was like, does this man have secrets? What don't we know about this man? Hawk then shifts the mood and starts reading from the journal and explaining what manhood refers to.
Oh my goodness.
All while Poppy is dying, but also secretly loving it. And he just teases her a bit more and then gives her back the journal.
I sometimes tease Justin by like telling him how, like I'll say, oh, do you know what they say in my books or whatever? And I'll say stuff like manhood, and he cringes so much. Like he thinks it's so embarrassing, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. Yeah. It's just funny.
It is funny. That is funny. I've definitely read parts to Scott before, and he's just like, he like can't. He's like,
because the thing is, when you're hearing these things out of context, like some of the turns of phrase, like he sheathed himself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, like there's just...
It's ridiculous.
I know, but when you're reading it, you're into it, so you don't really think too much about it.
You're lost in the context of the book and everything. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. The choice of words sometimes, when you step back and look at it, you're just like...
Or like, he slammed to the hilt. Like, it's all sword related.
Of course. It's fantasy.
Yeah, true. Good point.
Anyway, we get a bit of a chapter break, and then we next find Poppy back with Tawny, and they're all dolled up and ready for the Rite. But Poppy hasn't brought herself to look in the mirror yet, unsure of what it would be like to see her not looking like the maiden. And all she could think about is how Hawk is going to see her dressed like this.
And the dress is something else.
Yeah, she looks at herself in the mirror. The dress has semi-transparent sleeves, and the body is more opaque, but she still says it's as translucent as a nightgown. And we already know that her nightgown was quite revealing.
Yeah. But I think it's probably all the layers. Each layer might be translucent, but the dress itself may not be translucent. I don't know. That's how I interpreted it.
I took it as it is more opaque because like the sleeves are fully like they're see-through, and the body is more opaque. But by her saying it's as translucent as her nightgown, she had mentioned that you see like shadows where her nipples were and stuff. Yeah. So I kind of took it as
okay,
that, but maybe it's not.
I don't know.
It hugs every curve, and she's looking hot. Okay.
Yeah, she's got a low cut neckline.
Yeah, very different than what she normally wears, and it just seems so counterintuitive
that she'd be allowed to wear this.
Being a maiden,
I know.
Like, I don't get it, and even where we're at now, I still don't get what the point of all this was.
Of the Rite, or of
allowing her to go to the Rite.
Yeah.
It felt so useless. Nothing really happens. She's not really involved. She's not allowed to do anything. Like, what is, other than maybe the only thing I could think of was like, oh, maybe it was a test, like put her in a situation that her maidenhood could be risked. Will she take it? Like, maybe to prove her purity. But otherwise, I was like, what was the point of the Rite? Nothing happens at the Rite. We get like 2 conversations. It just, at this point, I was like, was it just a setup to like put her in a situation with Hawk? Like, what was the point of the... We have been talking about the Rite for millennia and nothing has happened. So I was disappointed.
Next week.
Okay, well, I hope, because I was like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, Tawny does Poppy's makeup, and then they go to meet Victor. And Victor takes a beat to make sure Poppy is truly ready for this, which I thought was really sweet. And then they get to the Rite, and there's a ton of people, a mix of lords and ladies, ascended, and those still in wait. There's the staff, there's the commoners, and on the dais, there's a dozen members of clergy, just as many guards. So it's just like this sea of crimson, a ton of people. Even all the normally white banners are replaced with red ones. So it's all part of their ceremony. Tonight, the only ones in white are actually the second sons and daughters, as well as the parents and third sons and daughters. So everyone participating in the Rite are in white.
Those who are about to become lords and ladies in wait, and then those that are given to the god's servitude.
Yeah, as priests and priestesses. Do they become?
They don't become priests and priestesses.
They just go
No,
to the
they become
temples.
servants.
Then Poppy realizes that right now she could just be Poppy. Like, she has this moment of like, okay, I'm not the maiden tonight. No one is expecting me to be the maiden. I could just be myself, which gives her some relief. And just as she finds that relief, we hear a voice of possibly the worst person we've ever met in this book to date. The Lord of Ick himself, Brandel Mazeen.
You really think he's worse than the Duke?
The Duke has the power to beat Poppy.
Yeah.
Lord Mazeen takes pleasure in torturing her and
But so does the
watching
Duke.
her. Yeah, but the fact that like he's watching her just to like watch her half naked body get whipped and get off on it. It
I mean,
almost
I'm not
feels-
saying he's great.
No, I know, but it almost feels like worse. And I'm sure he would take part if he could, but he doesn't have the
Yes.
power to.
I agree.
And he's just a little snake. Like, he literally comes up to her just to ruin her night by saying, I heard what happened. There's something more weaselly about him than the Duke.
Okay.
I'm not saying the Duke's great.
No, I know.
He's awful. I don't know. Mazeen is just ickier somehow.
All right.
Like, he feels like pervier.
He's definitely pervier. The Duke seems just angry and like
He likes abusing his power.
yeah, but like it doesn't seem to be necessarily sexual the way it does with Lord Mazeen.
Yeah. Lord Mazeen's just like slimy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he gives me more ick than,
Okay, that's
than the Duke. But this is not defending the Duke.
No,
I don't like
I know.
the Duke either. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, Dimples.
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions?
24.
Oh, I got 22.
Ooh.
But probably 24.
Okay.
Awards?
What is your most romantic line?
Did you really check on me to ask if I wanted company? Why would I lie about that?
Mine is right around there. I thought you might want company, and it seemed stupid to me to stand out in the hall, bored out of my mind, with you inside your room, most likely bored out of yours, which obviously you were since you left.
Very cute.
Yeah.
I had that at one point, and then I had to choose.
What is your funniest line?
I mean, it's funny, not funny, but
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with me reading about love. I didn't say there was, but I don't think what she's writing about has anything to do with love. Yeah.
So cringy.
Yeah.
Mine is, and I'm about to stab you in a very violent manner. And then Hawk responds, now that I believe.
Yeah. And then Spiciest, again, I didn't choose, but just like the banter around the journal and like the way he's torturing her just was...
Oh, I found a spicy line.
Oh, good.
Fulton had promised that when he was done with me that I wouldn't be able to walk straight for a day, and he was right.
Oh, that's written in the journal.
That is
Yeah.
spicy.
Chapter 23. Poppy spends a bit of time at the Rite, which ends up being seemingly pointless. The Duke is nowhere to be found, but the Duchess makes sure Poppy stays in line. Agnes makes an appearance to warn Poppy of rumors of something, ? We don't actually find out what. Then Hawk sweeps Poppy away to greener pastures. Like I said before, I found this chapter really anticlimactic. So I'm excited to get to whatever you're alluding to, because it really felt like...
It's a setup.
Well, but that's the thing. It felt very much like we have been talking the whole book about this ceremony. Literally nothing happens. And had she just gone back to her room, like, that would have been dull as hell.
Yeah,
like,
I think it was just an opportunity to grant her a bit of freedom and give her something to look forward to and to attend, because it is one of their quote-unquote religious ceremonies, that's why she would be allowed to go. But I don't think the rite in itself is particularly exciting. And Hawk even mentions that in the chapters we covered last week. He said, there's a lot of tears, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like dancing and drinking and like revelry after. So, which Poppy is not allowed to partake in anyway.
Yeah, I guess they just made it sound like such a big deal, and then she wasn't allowed to even enjoy it. So it's like, why even let her?
Well, I think it's a big deal for those partaking in it.
For sure.
Not necessarily for her.
Okay.
She just gets to witness it. I don't know.
It felt like she could have just not gone, and it didn't like nothing.
Oh, her presence had absolutely
well, that's what I
no
for the-
import.
as a reader, like, it didn't do anything for the story. Like, we didn't need it.
Don't worry.
Well,
Have
that's
faith.
what I'm saying. I'm excited to
ye
get
of
to
little
that.
faith.
I'm saying I'm excited to get to that,
Yeah.
because right now where we're at,
Yeah.
I was just like, what the fuck was the point?
No, I get that. So the Lord of Ick, as Elyse calls him, revels in telling Poppy how unhappy Priestess Analea is, and he steps uncomfortably close to her, and that's when she realizes that he smells like jasmine, which is what she smelled in the room Melissa was found in. Big eye emojis. Thoughts?
I had a lot of questions. I was like, why, like, Did he give her the flowers? Was he with her? Why does he smell of jasmine? Does his cologne or perfume just smell of jasmine? What's the relation? We know he was found near her room. He could have had some involvement. It's very
He could have at least been the person she was with intimately.
Yeah.
Before she was killed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Whether or not he killed her.
Yeah, it's just
it could
suspicious.
have been someone else, but yeah, he could have been with her before. He was somehow involved in her last minutes, it feels, or hours, it feels.
For sure. Anyway, Tawny distracts us with the fact that the Duke is late for the festivities. Despite this, the priest starts the rite just as Agnes comes up to Poppy, telling her that they need to talk. She seems nervous and wasn't expecting to see Poppy at the rite. And she also seems nervous for her safety and says something somewhat concerning. Quote, especially in crowds like this, there are so many people, and if he, ... he got in here once before, he could do it again, others could too. It's the others could too that's a little bit interesting.
Daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, it's kind of what they end up saying, but it definitely felt like she knew more than she was
Letting
saying. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, would she have said it if it was just Poppy? Maybe they should have just taken the risk and let Poppy talk to her alone. I don't know. Like,
hard to say. Victor, like we're just alluding to, is suspicious, and he actually calls Agnes out on it, but she denies that she's holding anything back and is off. Poppy returns to the right when she feels her neck tingle.
Yeah, very fourth wing of her.
It's Hawk, who was late to the right because he was doing some security checks, and he is looking fine. Mm-hmm. The proceedings of the rite continue, and Poppy asked Tawny if, while she was gone with Agnes, they called out the Tulis family. And they haven't. So Poppy is thinking to herself that they must have escaped, which would result in, if they get caught, it would result in them getting imprisoned for treason. But she also totally gets it. She's like, this is their last child. It's worth the risk if they could get away. Mm-hmm. The Duchess then kind of pops out of nowhere and asks Poppy if she's enjoying the rite, but also reminds her not to socialize or mingle with anyone. Mm-hmm. So again, kind of validates what you're saying. Why was she allowed to be there? There's just a bunch of random interactions here between Agnes and the Duchess and Lord Mazeen, and it's kind of just whatever, I guess, putting us in this party setting. And Poppy realizes that Tawny is missing out on enjoying the party because she's keeping her company. So despite the fact that she's out and about for the first time in forever, and in a context where her being the maiden isn't in your face because she's not wearing white, she tells her friend that she's going to go back to her room out of the goodness of her heart so that Tawny can actually enjoy herself. This gives Tawny the permission to go dance and have a good time guilt-free, which even Hawk points out was a really nice thing for Poppy to do. Mm-hmm. Hawk escorts Poppy out, and he compliments her once again about how good she looks that night, and he suggests that instead of going back to her room, to go out to what used to be her happy place, which is the garden. Mm-hmm. He assures her that since they're both masked, they won't be noticed, and he has a beautiful theory about changing the narrative of a place that could be difficult for you. Quote, you can't change what happened in there, just like you can't change the fact that the courtyard used to give you peace. You just replace your last memory, a bad one, with a new one, a good one. And you keep doing that until the initial one no longer outweighs the replacement. Mm-hmm. And then he really had me swooning, quote, and you won't be alone. I'll be there with you and not just watching over you. And I love how he makes that distinction, and Poppy loves that he makes that distinction as well. Anyway, the chapter ends with them walking to the garden hand in hand. So cute.
Yeah. I really love what, like, his, I guess, narrative or theory, whatever you want to call it, of just like reclaiming places that meant something to you and changing the narrative and everything. I thought was very lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dimple count?
2.
Question count?
16.
17.
Shit. Okay. 17.
Okay.
Speaking of places that are hard for you, did you see videos of Taylor Swift playing in London?
Yeah.
She was like crying a lot during the concert.
I know.
And then I was like thinking, I was like, I hope these memories will turn into good ones in London. It'll be good for her. Anyway, too much Taylor Swift content to these. Anyway.
Yeah, our algorithm is just
Taylor Swift.
It's Taylor Swift, and I don't know if now you've noticed as well, it's that private chef, Layla.
Yes. Yeah.
I watched a lot of her videos, and actually Justin and I tried her roast chicken recipe last night. Mm-hmm. But so because like I'm still not feeling 100%, Justin is still doing a lot of the cooking. Mm-hmm. And her roast chicken recipe was different because Justin has a great roast chicken recipe. And he was like, oh, let's try this one. Is she puts tomato and mushroom under the chicken. But we didn't have fresh tomatoes, but we did have canned cherry tomatoes. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, we can just use that. But he went ahead and put 2 cans of cherry tomatoes. So it became really tomatoey. And I am not a fan of cooked tomatoes. Okay. Like if it's in a tomato sauce, like a pasta sauce or whatever, like I like it. But just
like the squishy, like
yeah, I'm not a fan. So anyway, I think we'll try it again some other time with the proper ingredients.
Okay.
So our algorithm may continue to shift towards more Layla content.
That's fine.
At least it's not baby stuff anymore.
Yeah. It was a lot of baby stuff for a while. I was just like, oh, okay. Awards. What is your most romantic line?
I'd rather be standing here with you than out there without you. That's a Tawny line.
I love that. Mm-hmm. I wrote, and you won't be alone. I'll be there with you, not just watching over you.
Along the same lines.
Love
so
that one's Hawk.
Yeah.
Funniest?
Saw us holding hands. Dear gods, the scandal. No one's here. Unless you see people I can't. Yes, I see the spirits of those who've made bad life choices.
Mine was, unless you wish to go back to your room, maybe you're so engrossed in that book.
I love how he teases her about this book. It's so funny.
It's good.
What's your spiciest line?
Hawk looked like I imagine one of the gods waiting in the temples appeared, striking and unattainable, alluring in a way that was a little frightening.
That was actually my most romantic line for a bit, but I actually went like spicy. It's not sassy, but it's only the bad can be influenced princess.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Chapter 24. A romantic stroll to the gardens leads to talks about their pasts and even about their future together. Hawk then brings Poppy to the willow tree, where they get even closer. Poppy grapples with her desire for Hawk and who she's supposed to be, but chooses to follow her desire at the final moment. Indeed. We're in the garden, and Poppy is trying to remain calm and reframe her mind, but can't shake the worry that something bad will happen. She keeps expecting to still see, like, bloods or remains of what happened of the awful night with Rylan. Hawk then tells her about the last place he saw his brother and how that had been one of his favorite places. There was a cavern near the old town that they lived in with a hidden hot spring, and he and his brother and his best friend used to escape there, but at one point in their life he lost both of them. And, quote, the place that was once filled with happiness and adventure had turned into a graveyard of memories. I couldn't even think about going back there without them. It was like the place became haunted. And he talks about how he was afraid to go back and find the place worse off than what he remembered. But when he went back, it was the same beautiful place. And I just really love the sentiment and that he's trying to recreate that for her.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if maybe the fact that the place is just as beautiful without them is actually harder. Like it would almost be better. It would be easier to swallow that this place that he enjoyed and loved so much with his brother and best friend withered in their absence.
You think so?
I don't know. I feel like when you love a place and love a place with certain people and you feel garbage because you no longer have those people, you often hear when people talk about grief that seeing the world continue to operate and day-to-day life just continue as if nothing happened can be really difficult because your life has changed so significantly and things are so different for you that it almost mocks you that everything else, the sun is still shining, the world is still turning, people are still going about their day-to-day life. Like while some people might find that comforting and put things into perspective, other people might be like, well, how does nobody feel the pain and how is nobody else's life as consumed by pain as mine is?
I think what you're describing is very real for the early stages of grief.
Yes.
But I do think later down the line, people would be appreciative to be able to go back to the garden or go back to the hot spring and it still be as beautiful as it was before. And you have a connection still to those memories. It almost like breathes life into the memories that you have of those people. And it could become a really beautiful place for you again. But I agree, initially, I don't think that would be the feeling. It's just depending at where you are in like the stages of grief, because it's definitely like peaks and valleys, right?
Yeah, totally.
So Poppy then asks if he replaced the bad memories with good ones, to which he responds that he hasn't, but hopes to.
Is this allusions to potential future?
Perhaps. Poppy then brings up the fact that losing her parents so young was a blessing and a curse, because at least that way the memories are so faint. So she has this level of detachment about losing them. And I just found it so sad. Like, I understand what she's saying, but I was just like, oh, my heart.
Well, you hear that often with children of divorce.
Okay.
Like, my parents got divorced when I was 19. So I lived a lot of my life with my parents living in the same house, going on family vacations, like all those things. On one hand, I was better equipped to handle the repercussions and the fallout of their marriage breaking down because I was older. I was also on the precipice of starting my own life. But on the other hand, if you're younger when this happens, you don't know any other reality. So I think that's kind of what she's saying, that despite the fact that she's grown up without parents, and that's obviously incredibly difficult and tragic in its own right, the fact that she doesn't really know what she's missing out on is also potentially making it a bit easier for her.
For sure. For sure. She does miss Ian, her brother, though, and she's looking forward to seeing him again. And then Hawk brings Poppy to his favorite place in the garden, the willow tree.
Which I cannot think of without thinking of the Whomping Willow.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Pocahontas.
No.
Okay. At least the Pocahontas one is, like, nice.
No, I know. You know what? Pocahontas is one of those Disney movies I do not rewatch.
Yeah, don't. It's not worth it. I rewatched it. And
I mean, the soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
But even as a child, it wasn't one of my go-tos. My go-tos were Aladdin, Hercules.
Hercules is the best.
Sleeping Beauty. No, actually, that's a lie. Not Sleeping Beauty. Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast, yeah.
Cinderella. You know, like, mine were more the happy ones. Like, my brother made us watch Brother Bear one time. Never again. No. Fox and the Hound. Never again. Bambi. Never again. Like, these movies are so traumatizing.
Yeah, for sure.
I, like, as an adult, have no desire to rewatch them. Like, I will not be showing this child any of that.
I liked Pocahontas. I remember, like, I mean, the soundtrack, like you said, is amazing. And I do remember watching it a lot as a kid. Like, I think, like, I really liked, like, Miko and Flick and, like, her little animal critters. And I rewatched it more recently on Disney Plus, like, 2 years ago. And I was just like, oh, no.
This does not hold up.
No.
Yeah. Mulan. Oh, my gosh. Mulan was one of my favorites.
It's amazing.
Have you watched the new one?
The live action?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't.
It's good. It's very different, but it is good.
Okay.
I just don't expect the, like, cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it have a lot of the same songs or not even?
There's no songs.
There's no songs.
No.
I think that's why I didn't want to watch it. Because Mulan's soundtrack is incredible.
Oh my God.
Mulan and Hercules, I will say, have the best soundtracks.
I love Hercules.
I think it's, and Justin will not believe I'm saying this, I think it's better than Lion King.
I would say that too.
Okay. I thought you were going to push back on me.
No.
Like, people think that The Lion King
like,
has the best soundtrack. And I'm like, it does not. It's a great soundtrack. It's great. But it is not the best soundtrack.
It is great. No, it's great. One of the ones that we actually watch a lot is Princess and the Frog.
You know what? I've watched it before. I don't think that Justin has watched it. But it's a great movie. And you know what? I think I'm going to make him watch it.
That's a good one. Like, Scott loves it.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack.
It's a great, so good.
And you know what? What I like about it is it's reminiscent of the Disney movies of our childhood because of the way it's animated without some of the negative kind of feedback that those old, you know, because she's self-sufficient and, she's independent.
I mean, it's made in a different time,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. So I wish more Disney movies just did that, took what we love about the Disney movies of our childhood and just modernize them a little bit, but without them being overly animated. Because you know what they're saying now is that children's attention spans are shortening because of the media that they're consuming. So if you compare like Luca or Moana or any one of those more recent animated movies, the jump cuts are
really fast,
really fast to hold your attention versus the Disney movies we watched.
Right.
Even the TV shows we watch, like a lot of, I mean, I know obviously my algorithm has been changing because of my current life situation, but a lot of parents, when they are allowing screen time, are allowing their children to watch Bernstein Bears and what other show? Like even Dragon Tales that we used to watch. You know, like the shows that PBS Kids shows that we used to watch when we were kids, because the way that they are filmed or the way that they're produced is less stimulating.
Which would, for sure. I mean, I had recently students who are, I mean, my students are adults, so they're like 18, 19, 20, whatever.
Yeah.
So like 20-year-olds tell me that like they don't watch movies because they can't
sit through them.
And I was just like, because I love movies, but
yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, like I understand why. And because of the way media, it's very much what you're saying, but I was just like, oh my God, a world without movies. Like,
well, see, I'm more of a TV show person because I like to get really into the characters. So I would rather be able to be with the characters for longer than a movie.
That's fair.
But actually lately I've told Justin, because we'll both like be on our phones while we're sitting on the couch watching TV. And I'm like, no, not anymore. We need us time. If we're going to watch something, like we'll watch it together. We'll get like fully into it, whatever. But we're putting the phones aside.
Yeah. We watched the other night. So because our basement doesn't exist, we're now watching TV on a laptop, all cuddled up upstairs. But anyway, we're making it work. But we watched the other night the, I guess, remake of Ghostbusters.
Okay.
It's not really a remake. It's like a continuation. It's Ghostbusters Afterlife. And they've made 2. So we watched the first one because I hadn't seen it. It was so good.
Oh, yeah?
I was floored how good it was. I was not expecting it to be that good. I like put off watching it because I was like, there's no way it's going to be good. It was so good. I was crying. Like, Aww. It was just, because also like, I mean, Ghostbusters, like I watched it a lot as a kid and whatever. So there was like, they hit the right sentiment at the right spot and like had a lot of little nods to the original. And it was just nice to see a remake or like a continuation do good, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyway, back to Solus.
Yeah, back to Solus.
Okay, where were we? Yeah, so they're in the willow tree.
That's what that
started with
because
the willow
of the willow tree.
That's so funny. And Poppy is reminiscing how she used to play and hide in it as a kid with her brother. And she just loved that no one could tell if you were hiding inside it. Though Hawk insists that he can tell there is no one there. So they step into the cover of the willow and Poppy starts reminiscing how beautiful and different it is every season. And Hawk just tells her that they could sneak away and they will go see it every season. And it's like, I just love that he's making plans for their future.
We love a man who makes plans.
Yeah, like he sees them hanging out not as guard and maiden in the future. And I just like, my heart. And the butterflies.
Yeah.
Then Poppy brings up the fact that she might be called away to the capital, but Hawk just says, quote, possibly. If so, then I guess we'll have to find different adventures, won't we? Or should I call them misadventures? And again, he's just like, I'll go where she goes. And like, he really just sees their life together. So cute. Hawk then spots the benches that Poppy mentioned, but Poppy's saying it's pitch black and that's impossible. So like, I guess he could see in the dark? Question mark.
Or he just has better vision than her.
Maybe. I can't see for shit in the dark. So
oh, really?
I have bad, like, I could see, but I probably could use contacts for long distance.
Ah.
Yeah. Or glasses for a long distance.
But
I
both.
can see enough. Oh, you have both.
So I see very well.
Yeah, things get fuzzy further away. But anyway, so in the dark, like, forget it.
Yeah, but a bench is a large object. I feel like it's easier to spot.
I know, that's what I'm saying. He could see in the dark.
Yeah.
And then he sits down and pulls her down into his lap. And both of them agree that this behavior is completely inappropriate, but neither of them are moving to change it.
I know. I love it when, like, actually it is reminiscent of Fourth Wing when they're standing outside in the snow and I was going to say Hawk, but it's Xaden. And Xaden is like, oh, touching you was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And Poppy.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, oh, yeah, like whatever. Like,
yeah.
I love it.
I love those moments. The we shouldn't do this, but they do it anyway moments. Yeah, it's great. Hawk insists that his intentions did not start out that way, but seeing her the way she looked tonight, he couldn't help but think to run off to the willow for some inappropriate behavior. And Poppy's just grappling with her desire towards Hawk, like thinking back to the first maiden who clearly had done inappropriate things, yet still found out to be worthy. So she's like, does that mean if I do things, inappropriate things, will I still be worthy? She's got a lot going on in her mind. Mm-hmm. And then Hawk wants to make a deal. Quote, if I do anything you don't like, I give you permission to stab me. And then Poppy's just piping on how bad of an influence he is. But he doesn't care. And he doesn't care that she's the maiden. He only cares about who she is. What a way to her heart, Hawk. But then, on top of everything, Poppy cannot grasp that Hawk, who could have his pick of anyone, would choose her. And to him, it's simple. Like, she intrigues him, and no one else does. So he's into her, and he wants her. But, like, she just cannot accept or is having trouble accepting his compliments and the fact that he thinks she's beautiful and wants to spend time with her. And I just like can't help but think it's all the Duke's
brainwashing
words at play.
Yeah.
She's not saying it, but it's clearly the way she's been brought up, and she's been told her whole life she's not beautiful, and she's...
But she does mention, she like...
Does she? Okay.
Yeah, she mentions, like, either she says something about how, like, I know what you said in the Duke's office, or he's... No, I think he says, didn't you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm saying Poppy isn't like, oh, like the Duke says, I'm not beautiful.
No, I know.
It's so subconscious at this point. And even though she's done so much to defy the Duke and defy the world that she's raised in, you could see that it's so ingrained in her, and she's having trouble just shedding that, which is normal.
Yeah.
And then he tells her it's getting late and he should bring her back to her room, but she asks him to kiss her. And that is where we end.
That is where we end.
What an ending.
I know.
Dimple count?
None.
Question count?
23.
Oh, I had 25.
Okay, we'll go with 25.
Okay. What is your most romantic award?
I did, and I'll say it again. I don't care what you are. I care about who you are.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mine was that, but just also the lines before it. But same thing.
Amazing. I don't have a funniest line, do you?
I do.
Oh.
Princess, I'm confident that if you didn't want me to do something, I'd be lying flat on my back with a dagger at my throat before I even took my next breath.
It's like funny, not funny.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all we get.
That's true. What is your spiciest line?
Very rarely is anything I do innocent, princess.
Same. All right, tally it up.
Oh boy. Okay. We have a total of 16 dimples and way too many questions.
Yeah, like we should hold this up. That is a lot of questions.
Yeah. 247 questions. It's a lot of questions.
It's a lot of questions. And so far we are good on our reading comprehension. Although I would argue that you mistaking the Poppy in love, like the Poppy love sex thing, potentially is reading comprehension.
I don't know.
But it could be open to interpretation.
I feel like it could be open to interpretation.
Yeah. Okay. So. We'll give you this one.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much for listening. Next week, please read chapters 25. For next week, please read chapters 25 to 28. Like I said at the beginning, please rate this podcast and leave a review. It'll help other people find us. If you haven't already, we encourage you to set new episodes to download so you're sure to be up to date. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, as always, we have our Amazon storefront that's active, as well as our discount code with Smoke Show Hot Sauce. You can follow us on Instagram at Book Bound Pod and on TikTok at Book Bound Besties. Please tag us in any funny videos you see that are from Blood and Ash or Empyrean related, any theories you may come up with, or really anything that you think we would like.
Yeah.
We love that stuff.
And also, now that we're more than halfway through the book, we'd love to hear how you guys are enjoying it.
Yeah.
Just shoot us a quick message, inbox us, whatever.
We love it. Or you can email us at bookboundpod@gmail.com.
Look at that. Look at that.
Let's get to reading.